La-da-dee, la-da-doo, da-da-dee-doo. Oh, hey everybody, how we all doing today? Welcome back to One Piece, everybody's favorite family-friendly manga. Let's see what wacky adventures the Straw Hats get up to today. Maybe they land in a magical kingdom full of mushrooms and marshmallows falling from the sky, and they have to save a princess from being taken from the gumdrop castle to... I don't even know what I'm doing right now. You know, honestly, Oda could do a whole premise like that. He kind of already did. All of it's kind of hard for me to come up with fake premises in One Piece when Oda has tackled essentially every single trope there possibly was. They kind of did go to a land that was filled with like gumdrop castles and everything. They did save a princess. In fact, they've saved... How many princesses have the Straw Hats saved? We have to go through that line. I mean, Vivi, but like... Does Rebecca count as a princess? Yeah, I think Viola was the one that was technically the princess, but Rebecca might have also been in line for the throne. You know, we gotta calculate some stuff out here. Anyway, this will be One Piece, chapter 1119, titled Emeth. Alright. Now, we'll get into what that exactly means at the end of the chapter. The short answer is, Emeth is the name for the Iron Giant. I know, spoilers, I'm sorry. Tekking, you spoiled the chapter at the beginning of the chapter review. Emeth is the name of the Iron Giant, alright? What it means exactly, we'll talk about that then. In Japanese, it's written with katakana, as you would assume. There are three characters that make it up. Me-to. Emeto, or Emeto, depending on where it is on the screen right now, okay? So, Emeto, or Emeth, and we'll talk about it at the end. We continue with Yamato, Oni Child Yamato, in the Holy Inari Shrine Pilgrimage, Volume 9. And Yamato has finally left the Flower Capital. Alright, beginning on the adventure across all of Wano, looping around, eventually getting back to Hakumai, where he will return Yasuie's sword to the shrine, and then go up to Ringo, and then go back to the Flower Capital is the plan. So we are in the Kibi region of Wano, which is really cool, because the Kibi region was like the one region we didn't really get to see at all. In fact, it was I think the only time we saw it was when Zoro met Yasuie for the first time. We see Zoro getting lost, of course, and he's wandering through the wastelands of Kibi with Yasu, and Zoro is like, who the hell is this guy? I don't know. Do you have any food? You know, and they get on that boat, and they go back, you know. So, Yamato's walking through the wasteland, doesn't look that great. You still see some of the factories in the background, but thankfully the factories of Orochi will no longer billow smoke into the atmosphere and pollute the countryside. There are some children that live in this region that are like taking some rocks and throwing them at Yamato, because remember, Yamato has horns, right? And from what we saw with Kaido, as well as like all of Kaido's minions, they also all had horns. I imagine some of them were like just costumes, like when Kinemon did the costume jutsu and gave everybody an outfit, they had horns. I'm sure they were just like little headband things that you can put on your head for most of like the pleasures and the gifters and everything. But the Toby Roppo had horns and stuff. Even Drake kind of styled his hair to kind of have horns. Black Maria had horns. Page One and Ulti both had horns. So you question with some of them, like some of them it made sense. Like if they were, you know, they had ancient zones and stuff like that. Others it might just be a costume choice. Either way, the idea of seeing somebody with horns is like, that's a member of Kaido's crew! And so the kids are taking rocks and like throwing them at Yamato. And Yamato is like, hey, come on, I'm not like Kaido! I mean, I might be the child of Kaido, but I am nothing like my father. Now, where are your kids' parents at right now? They were killed by Kaido. It's like, oh, okay, I'm sorry, kids. Maybe Yamato's gonna adopt these kids, I guess. I don't know. It's like, oh, man, yeah, they were killed by Kaido and Orochi. What do you think? It's like, all right, they was forced to work in a factory until they died of exhaustion. And it's just like, all right, okay, yeah, sorry, kids. Like, let's go on an adventure. Come on, we're gonna go to a mushroom marshmallow kingdom with a gumdrop forest or some shit. I don't know. It's like, yeah, okay. So as there's just this empty wasteland of nothing around them, I don't think those kids are going to survive very long in Kibi, so maybe Yamato will do something to help them out there. Okay, so we cut over to the labo phase where we have the command room where Stussy and Kaku were located. So last time we saw these two, they were talking to Edison, and Stussy was basically like, hey, is it okay if I, release Kaku from his bubble? I don't think he's going to attack us anymore. And Edison was like, Stussy, you just need to get out of there. I guess you could free Kaku. I didn't know that they were, like he was your friend. I kind of feel bad about ordering you to betray them earlier, when Lucci and Kaku were attacked by vampire Stussy and everything. And just like, that was Vegapunk's orders. Vegapunk ordered her to attack them. And so Edison was kind of apologizing for that. R.I.P. Edison, you were such a good man. You were a good robot, man. All right. Well, anyway, we see the results of that now. So Stussy has released Kaku from the bubble, and they're just standing there in the the bombed out ruins of the command center. The Frontier Dome is gone now, so Stussy has no reason to be there anymore. Yeah, I imagine how this went was she released Kaku from the bubble, and he got out, and he just kind of like dusted himself off. And if you thought this was going to be a happy reunion of like Kaku going up to Stussy and being like, you think we're friends? Oh, bring it in, Stussy. Oh, I don't even care. You bit me like a vampire and knocked me unconscious. It's all right. No, Kaku just kind of is there, and it's just like, okay. You need to get out of here. Leave now. And Stussy's like, what do you mean leave? I thought we were... No, you thought we were friends? Oh, that's a bit presumptuous, don't you think? That was my response. Did you not think I was gonna we're not gonna hug it out, okay? I respected you as an assassin. You are really good at doing what you do, but we are not friends, all right? And when Lucci comes back, he is gonna have no quarter with you, all right? So Kaku is like doing like a little bit of the Lassie treatment. Remember Lassie? You'd be like, get out of here. We don't want you anymore. Just leave. This is kind of like that where Kaku is like, Stussy, you need to get out of here. We're not friends. I don't care about you. And then it cuts over and you see Kaku staring in the other direction. He's not quite crying, but he looks like he's about to. He looks like he's like, Just get out of here, Stussy. We're not friends. We're assassins. And assassins cannot have friends. You gotta bet that Kaku right now is standing there and he's flashing back to the events of Water 7. He's flashing back to his job at Galila and all of the friends he made there in the company. But not only that, but also the people in the town also like looked up to Kaku. It was like they were like kids that were like fans of Kaku, like jumping around town and doing his acrobatics and like, yeah, that's Kaku. I'm gonna be a great shipwright someday, just like him. He was kind of like a celebrity in Water 7. All of the members of Galila were, right? And he's probably remembering that a little bit now, and he's like, okay, I went back to the life of an assassin, the life I've only, this isn't the only life he's ever known, now that he's also experienced, meeting people and, having normal relationships with people, and now he's back to this, and so he's just like, Stussy, you gotta go, you gotta get out of here, okay, honestly, when Lucci comes back, he's gonna murder you, alright, and there's no way that I can convince him otherwise, so, obviously, Kaku's not going to attack Stussy. He actually has a little bit more empathy than Lucci does, okay? Stussy is crying. She's like, Kaku, I just thought we could be friends. And he's like, no, we can't, Stussy. It's the way of the assassin. It's the way of Cypherpole. Just get out of here. Just never come back. So it's actually a really heartbreaking scene. And I could totally understand Kaku's perspective on this, because if Lucci comes back, we do not see him in this chapter, but if Lucci returns, he's killing Stussy. There's no way that they're gonna, talk it out or anything like that. So, yeah, Kaku tells her to leave. I'm guessing Kaku's gonna either go look for Lucci or hang out in the lab and wait for Lucci to come back. Stussy is going to go rendezvous with the rest of the Straw Hats. I can't really imagine her doing anything else. So, it looks like Stussy's probably gonna make it out of this arc in one piece. Name drop, but also, yeah, I hope she doesn't die. All right, we cut down to the evacuation point. We cut down to the giant ship, the Great Eric, beginning to sail away from Egghead. And on deck, we have Luffy in Gear 5th and Bonney in Gear 5th. And Bonney is like jumping around in the Gear 5th form with the white hair flowing everywhere. Like, wow, this is crazy. This is incredible. This isn't going to be controversial in the slightest in the story, right, Luffy? Ha ha ha. Of course, Bonney. Now, let's fight against the Gorosei. You know, it's like, all right. So, I liked, at the end of this chapter, I like the way that Oda handled this. It actually honestly brings up a question, and Mars is going to mention it here. So the Marines are all looking at Luffy now, and he's like, oh, wait, yeah, that's Straw Hat Luffy on the wanted poster, the 3 billion, that's the man right here, yeah, that's what he does. We were curious about that. The Giants are all like, oh, Sun God, Nikai, it's been so long, let's dance, you know? So you got Mars up in the sky, and it took him a minute to, like, process what just happened, because, like, 2 of them just show up out of nowhere. But then Mars, like, you know, realizes what is happening here, and he's just like, 2 of them, I see. That was just a facsimile, a fake that you created with your age powers, the Toshi no Mi. That is it, and nothing else. And then he fires a fire blast at both of them. Luffy mentions, okay, guys, here's the deal. Here's how we're gonna deal with these guys. You can hit them, you can slice them, you can crush them, you can puree them, you can grill them in the oven at 350 degrees for about 10 to 15 minutes until they're crispy. But they're gonna keep coming back. So what we gotta do is we gotta just knock them as far away as possible. That's Luffy's strategy. And you know what? Luffy is being particularly smart here. He's always been a battle genius, you know? But the idea of like, okay, look guys, I'm all for using big giant attacks that are really cool looking and all that, and we could still do one of those. But don't even bother trying to like punch this giant bird or setting it on fire or electrocuting it or cutting it in half or whatever you can do. It's not gonna work. They're just gonna paste themselves back together. So we're just gonna knock this thing as far away as possible, and then hopefully we'll be able to get away before it gets back, all right? How good is this plan? I mean, it's not a bad plan. I mean, it's a better plan than just trying to attack it right there and now, okay? So, Mars fires the energy laser. Luffy goes into Gumu Gumu no Balloon in Gear 5th form. He just, like, swells up his entire body. And the flame, he hits the laser beam, hits him right in the stomach, and he's like, ah, that's hot! Ooh, that's spicy. Okay, everybody. This is what I'm gonna need you to do. And like Luffy's in the sky as like a giant orb absorbing the energy beam. And he's like, all right, everybody on the ship, here's what I'm gonna need you to do. Sanji, Franky, Bonney, I'm gonna need you to hit me in the back with the strongest moves you can use. And Sanji's there like full power? Yup, full power. Just use everything you got. You know, Haki, you know, the kitchen sink, if you throw everything you got at me, let's go, come on. It's just like, all right. And so Sanji is like, all right, I guess that the captain's orders, right? And Franky's like, oh, our strongest, you asked for it, Captain. Franky's like really excited about this, you know, because then again, I mean, Luffy's a giant that's like absorbing an energy laser, and Franky gets to use like his strongest technique. Bonney is surprised, like, oh, we're gonna attack Luffy now? What? I don't understand. Okay, well, whatever. We have Dory and Broggy in the background, and they're like, all right, we'll leave it to you guys. Hey, giants, quit dancing. We gotta put out these fires. The ship is burning down. And they're like, oh, but Captain, you were dancing too. We'll dance later. Let's put out the fires so we can literally escape. It's like, oh, okay. So the giants all are putting out the fires, so Dory and Broggy are not joining in on this combo move here. Although I feel like they could have. I feel like they could have busted out that, like that spear technique. You know, that would have been cool, right? So, here's what happens. This is really cool. And it also leads to a few other things that we'll discuss. So, Luffy, after tanking the energy beam, emerges out of the smoke looking like a demon. Like his head is all burned, you know, like he has like an afro now, like the same thing that happened when Kizaru was hitting him with the lasers, right? So, but he comes out of the smoke like, ah, you know, like Luffy in Gear 5th, stretchy arms. So he grabs onto both of Mars's wings and like emerges out of the smoke, his face like burnt like charcoal, and be like, yeah. Just like, Mars is like, whoa, what, okay, whoa, personal space, buddy, what's going on here, all right? And he's like, all right, I got a hold of him, let's do this, everybody, let's go. And so Sanji is like, all right, captain's orders are absolute, even if it means attacking the captain. So Sanji uses Ifrit Jambe Hell Memories. Holy crap, they weren't kidding when they went full power, because Hell Memories is probably Sanji's strongest attack. It's the move he used to finish off Watatsume back at Fishman Island, where he like kicks Watatsume and his whole body just gets lit on fire. And Watatsume was like the size of like a mountain or like a small hill, perhaps a knoll maybe. Anyway, he gets hit and the whole body got lit on fire, right? And then he's using Haki on top of that, and Ifrit Jambe, and the benefits he got from Wano with the Germa, like the exoskeleton. So Sanji's like, he looks pissed. He's just like, all right, Sanji, final attack, strongest move, let's go! You know? I was gonna call him Sanji Vinsmoke there for a moment. I was like, Sanji Vinsmoke, final move! And I'm like, but he doesn't like being called Sanji Vinsmoke, so that wouldn't be very nice. But anyway, then we have Franky busting out impactful, strong right. So it's a strong right. It's just using his, arm to like fire, it's a rocket punch connected to a chain basically. But it's impactful strong right. So it's an upgraded version of the strong right we've seen. And then Bonney is like, okay, I will use Giant Nika Punch! And, okay, so she just makes a giant, like, here comes the giant fist! I'm like, there it is. Like a Gear Third kind of technique kind of deal. So, it does bring up a question here that, like, does Bonney have access to all the Toon Force shenanigans? Because the only thing we see her do in this chapter is using, like, a Gear Third punch, something we've already seen her be able to do. Now, if her power isn't the multiverse thing, if it really is just an imagination thing, she might not be able to imagine, like the level of things she saw Luffy do up until now. I don't know every single one. I'd have to go back and see every single thing that Bonney was present for when Luffy was using Gear Fifth. But this is a technique she used like when she was escaping Sorbet Kingdom, like just making a giant fist and like punching something, right? So it doesn't look like the thing that Mars said about it just being a facsimile, just being a fake version of the Sun God, and just it looks like the Sun God, but doesn't have all of the abilities of the Sun God or Luffy in Gear 5. That seems to be accurate so far from what we've seen, and it's also a form she cannot use very long, because pretty much she uses this attack and then almost immediately goes back into her child form because she just cannot maintain it anymore, right? So, yeah, it is a question, like, if she saw Luffy do the thing with, like, you know, creating the baseball helmet and the bat out of nowhere and then using that technique, could she do it if she saw Luffy with that same technique? Could she replicate it using her powers? Or is it just like, nah, I don't have all the powers of Gear 5, it's just like I have a strength boost and everything when I use my normal punches. It might just be something like that, right? And it's also just, it's symbolic, if nothing else, of like Bonney finally being free, and after everything that we've seen this arc with her and Kuma and being manipulated by the Gorosei and the government and everything like that. So it's symbolic of that alone, and maybe that is what Oda is ultimately just going for. He wasn't planning on like Bonney having all of the abilities of Gear 5, okay? But something that is interesting here. So all of their attacks connect. They hit Luffy in the back. So Luffy is holding on to Mars in the front, and then he just gets boom in the back by everybody. Hell memories, impactful strong right, and a giant punch from Bonney. And then he's just like, oh man, that hurts. Okay. And everyone's like, you know, Bonnie's, well, actually no, because Bonnie's eyes do pop out of her head, which is a very Sun God thing to do. So maybe that does imply that she could do all the Toon Force shenanigans. It's just she can't maintain the form for very long, so it ends out right after this. Then again, you know, with the Toon Force stuff, like, this is something Oda will just do sometimes. You know, like when Kaido got knocked into the festival hall, like everybody's eyes popped out of their head. That doesn't mean, like Nami and Law, it happened with them. It doesn't mean that they can use it. It's just that, like, you know, it's a wacky scene here. Also, it might be just the fact that Luffy, because he is awakening, kind of is affecting things around him in that way. Anyway, Bonney is very surprised that, like, wait a minute, it hurts him? And because all of our attacks are hitting Luffy, and Luffy's like, well, of course it does. You guys are using Haki. Now, allow me to finish off this giant bird. Wait, stop for a minute there, Luffy. We'll let you finish off the giant burb in a second. Okay, we gotta talk about some stuff, all right? So, Bonney is clearly using armament Haki here. I bring this up because she's never really been shown, I think, to use Haki up until now. And I even saw a few comments that it was actually really funny now in hindsight. I saw some comments in the last review where like, well, even if Bonney went into gear 5th, it doesn't matter because she can't use Haki. Well, she can now. And we know Sanji can use Haki. He is, I think, the only one that was like, out of those 3, that was confirmed to be like, all right, Hell Memories, Ifrit, Jambe, Armament Haki, like that was understood. Is Franky using Armament Haki? Because if he is, woohoo! Franky, Armament Haki, Superman! That's what makes the impactful. Boom! All right. It would be interesting if Oda decided to just be like, all right, I understand that, you know, you maybe want the Straw Hats to have little moments where they learn Haki and everything like that. But then again, there's also another side of this where it's like, man, the Straw Hats should really know Haki at this point. Like, all of them, maybe not every single one of them, but a good chunk of them should. Like, Brooke should be able to do some armament stuff. Franky should be able to do some armament stuff. Robin with armament would be devastating. Usopp had already been shown to have observation. Nami kind of already has good observation with, like, you could argue sensing the weather might be something for Nami. Chopper, I could see having observation or armament. Either way could kind of work for Chopper. Being an animal, like his animal instincts could be really good. And also in Monster Point, armament would be good. Jinbei's already confirmed to have armament and observation. Same with Zoro, Sanji, Luffy. They always had it. Or they had it ever since the time skip, right? Or, you know, a little before that. But, yeah, you know what? Like, we don't know. Because we could very clearly see Bonney using armament on the giant fist that she punches Luffy with, right? Sanji already confirmed to have it. With Franky, we don't really see his, like, we see him using, like, he loads up his fist to shoot it. It doesn't have armament on it then. He's, like, impactful, strong, and then launches it like a rocket. And then he says, you know, punch, or impactful, strong right. You know, like, that's what he does. Okay. So we see it connecting with the back of Luffy, but we just see like a little like impact point coming out of it. So we don't really see Franky's like fist if it was like charged up with armament Haki or not, right? Luffy does say, hey, you guys are using Haki, so at least 2 out of 3 of them are, but the way he says it could imply that Franky is as well. So look. For right now, I'm going to say Franky can use armament Haki. Is it a little anticlimactic? Yes, sure. I wish there would have been a moment where, like, Franky was fighting Sasaki in the last arc, and he awakened it there. Kind of like where Usopp awakened observation in that little clash with Sugar. Okay, where he's like, I can see them now. I can see their auras, you know, and then he fired a shot, right? But you know what? If we're getting into the final part of this series, and Oda was like, you know what, Franky should be able to use armament about now. All right, I'll give it to him. Wish you would have done it a little differently, and we still don't even know. Maybe he wasn't using Haki, maybe it was just Sanji and Bonney. But if he is, which I think he did, let's give this to Franky. Let's give Franky some stuff, all right? Come on, man, Franky. He needs something, all right? He's a giant robot that's decked out with all this different weaponry and everything, but he still needs something. He needs magic willpower powers. Let's go. Yeah. All right, go, Franky. So, with all of those attacks hitting Luffy in the back, he then uses, like, the force to redirect that forward to hit Mars. And that's what he does. And he uses Gumu Gumu no Booming Dawn Balloon. And just boom! And then just fires Mars off into, like, the stratosphere, into the mesosphere, the ionosphere, the thermos... Okay, maybe not that far. Maybe it doesn't... Dude, what if Mars gets sent flying all the way to the moon? Oh, what if Mars gets sent flying all the way up to, the Sky Islands? Just like, get out of here, you! Boom! And then just... Meanwhile, on Sky Island... just some random people enjoying some tea, and then Mars just pops in through the clouds like, oh god, what's that thing? It's like, he sent me flying pretty far. Better get back. And just goes back down, and the sky people are just like, what? Huh? What's going on? I don't understand. What's the giant bird? You know? Okay, you know? Yeah, that actually, I want to see that so bad right now. It wouldn't be like Skypiea and Upper Yard and Conus and everybody, because that's on the other side of the world, but there's more than one Sky Island. It would be, what if Arouge is up, Arouge is just chilling out on another Sky Island, and there's giant bird, go back, and just like, even Sky Islands aren't safe anymore from this nonsense, you know? Yeah, but that'd be really funny. It'd be really cool. Now, is this gonna work? Because, you know, Luffy is like, oh, they won't be back anytime soon now. Mars can fly, and he can fly really fast. And I'll tell you, any damage that he incurred from that attack, he's gonna heal from pretty quickly. You know, I'm sure he was damaged a little bit from it. I mean, there was a lot of, you know, kinetic force slamming into him there. But he's gonna heal from that, and he's just gonna be like, how dare they? And he's gonna rocket back to this battlefield, all right? I don't know how much time they really bought. Like, I don't see them like, well, we knocked him away. All right, everybody, get on the ship. We'll now go to Elbath with absolutely no issues. We won't be seeing him again. Guys, I mean, like, 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Like, how far could they have possibly sent Mars? You know what I mean? Unless they literally did knock him into space. And we have like a Cars moment. Cars and Mars. You know, he gets knocked up there, and Mars is like, they knocked me into space. No big deal. I will return. I am the ultimate life form. Wait, no, my body, it's freezing solid. Can't move. Gah! Marcus Mars then became something that was neither stone nor living and began to float throughout space. He floated out there until the spark of thought went dim. Yeah, sure, let's go with that. When in doubt, just go to JoJo's. When in doubt, there's a reason it's a manga that has been around for as long as it has. Whenever you have a problem on how to deal with an enemy, just flip open to a random scene in JoJo and just like, all right, that's how the fight's gonna end. In fact, hold on, right, one moment. All right, how are they gonna take care of the rest of the Gorosei here? All right. Well, in order to get rid of Topman, JoJo's gonna sneak into Mexico and pretend to be a woman. Gotcha, okay. And then the way they're gonna get rid of Saturn is, what was this fight? What is this fight? Oh, they're gonna get knocked into an icy crevasse in Switzerland. That's how they're gonna take care of Saturn. Peter is gonna be dealt with a chariot race, it seems. And then, who's the last one? Ethan. Ethan is gonna be dealt with, it's the Jay Guile fight. Okay, so they're gonna deal with him by trapping him in a mirror for the rest of the time. Okay, gotcha. So that's how we're gonna deal with the Gorosei, ladies and gentlemen. We laid it out there. Way to go, Araki. Okay, so now that he's been dealt with for right now, they're on the ship and they're moving away and everything seems to be okay. Luffy's still in gear 50, he's bouncing around and he's just like, okay, where are Usopp and the others so we can get out of here? And Sanji's like, well, they were meant to meet us down here, but they're kind of late. So, you know, Atlas is like, oh, I'll go check. And they're like, Atlas, you're gonna go check? And she's like, yeah. And she seems to, like, I think telepathically communicate with Lilith, because they're all connected, because they're all satellites. And she even says that, like, hey, Lilith, York is monitoring us, okay? So, I think they realize this, so they might be able to, like, Lilith and Atlas will probably be able to cut themselves off from Punk Records so that York cannot hear them, because York was able to do that earlier. That's the reason nobody knew York was a traitor. So there's definitely a mechanism to, like, flip that off. Now, there is a downside to that, because if they do that, then York might have free access to Punk Records and she can kind of do anything. That maybe when you disconnect from Punk Records, you can't reconnect later, or it's harder to reconnect. And if they're leaving the island anyway, it is a question. Like, if Atlas and Lilith leave and go to Elbath, would they still be able to connect to Punk Records from, like, a while away? And that's even questioning what the government's gonna do with Punk Records afterwards. Are they gonna leave it on Egghead, or are they gonna take it somewhere else? I feel like they're gonna pick up the whole hangar or something and move it somewhere else, or at least the tank with the brain in it, right? So, Atlas has a plan. She can fly, so she's gonna head up there, and she has a jetpack, and she's gonna figure out what's going on with everybody up there. And then there was also a plan involving Lilith as well. Okay, so now we cut back to the Iron Giant underwater, and it's kind of like, I think it landed on the ocean floor, and it's standing now, so it's no longer, sinking, and it gets up, and it just, it's like moving around, and then you see the transponder snail, the distribution Denden Mushi inside of it, beginning to slowly, like, wake back up, so it didn't get destroyed by the Gorosei, it just kind of got knocked around inside of the Iron Giant, and maybe, like, knocked it out for a bit, and the message cut out, and now it's kind of waking back up. Like, it's like, oh man, it's like a scene in like the Flintstones. It's like, oh, it's a living, I don't get paid enough for this job, like the Denden Mushi's waking back up and everything like that, right? So the message is continuing, but it's very garbled and it's covered in like, static. So we see Whole Cake Island. We see the reaction from like Katakuri. We don't really see his face. Well, no, we do. We do his face. It's just very serious. It's standard Katakuri. It's just like, we see Moscato, who's still alive, good for him. Moscato is the dude that had his soul ripped out by Big Mom at the very beginning of the arc with the Croquem Bush situation in Whole Cake, and then they gathered up his soul and threw it back into him, so he's the Minister of Gelato. So he's alive, but he's probably going to die pretty soon because a lot of his soul wasn't recovered. We also say Zukato, who's the Minister of Alcohol. We see Brownie. He was part of the one of the attacks on the crew when they were trying to escape. Brownie's the Elvis dude with the hairy chest, right? So they're there and they're observing the message, and Vegapunk is like, of the sorts. That's why that ceaselessly inherited aspect, we call it a will. And those who have suffered for this, I can only pray my voice reaches you. All right, now there's a couple of other scenes that while that's going on, so I'll get back to those, but including a cameo by somebody we have been waiting to see for quite some time. The message is very garbled, and we've missed part of it now. Like, it's not like it's going back and repeating what was lost. It was like this whole section of the message, we're only getting pieces from it. So Oda is like, all right, I'll drop random moments of this. Like, we had the Mo at the beginning of it. Like, among you, there is a Mo. I don't know what to do about this. I can only pray my voice reaches you. You'll suffer for this. I love you all. I hate you all. It's like, it's like, what does it mean? What does it mean, Vegapunk? All right. The way that I'm interpreting this message all garbled is that Vegapunk is trying to beseech somebody with his voice. He's trying to, like maybe it's something along the lines of, like, if he was addressing Blackbeard, because this has something to do with the will of D, right? And he mentions we call it a will. And so maybe he's like, listen, there is one among you that I need to talk to. The person that bears the will of D and the will of Roxy Zebek. Marshall D. Teach, also known as Blackbeard. This is a message for you. And maybe Vegapunk is trying to appeal to like Blackbeard. He's trying to basically be like, listen, this is the reason why everything is happening. This is the reason that the will was carried on. Maybe like way back in the Void Century, there was a member of Joy Boy's crew that betrayed him, and that person's will of D went on to be part of like that. That ended up being the ancestor of Roxy Zebek, either a literal ancestor like through blood or just through the will. And then Blackbeard is related to Zebek, right? So maybe Vegapunk is like, listen, you don't understand what you're doing. You don't understand the whole context of the story, probably. Please listen to me. I pray that you listen to my words about this. You don't need to do this. You don't need to do the things that you're doing. This is the full story. There are people that have suffered because of this, So I don't know if that's the way that it's supposed to be interpreted. That's the way I'm interpreting it right now. I'm sure a lot of people will leave their theories below, and I'll look into that, and I'll be like, okay, that maybe makes more sense. But that's the first thing I thought of, where, especially when he says, I can only pray my voice reaches you. It seems like he is literally like, listen, please don't do this horrible stuff in the world and like attack and murder people. You don't understand the whole story. Maybe if Vegapunk thinks like, if I explain the whole story to him, maybe he'll stop doing what he's doing, right? Or maybe he's afraid Blackbeard will do something he hasn't done yet, and he's trying to get him away from that, okay? The twist is Blackbeard, let's say if it is about him, Blackbeard is like, say ha ha ha, I knew all of the history from the beginning. I read it in Rox's journal. You're not gonna sway me, Vegapunk. Might be so. Obviously, he wouldn't sway his nature anyway. Because, you know, it's you know how Blackbeard is. He's not just going to give up what he's doing, right? Okay, and we still don't know his ultimate goal, but it might be something like that. So that's one interpretation. But I would love to see your thoughts on this and your theories and opinions on what this message, the last part of this was, okay? So that's all we get there. We have York saying that, hey, Goro say, you only disrupted the transmission. The memory circuit, the part that actually has the message in it, that's still in the snail. You need to destroy that snail entirely to destroy that circuit so the message doesn't, you know, restart later, right? What if the message was on a loop? What if the message just it starts over on a loop and just goes all the way around again, you know? You know what I just realized? This is actually really funny when you really think about this. If you boil this down to like just the fundamental level of what's going on here, you have the Gorosei, the 5 rulers of the world that can turn into these giant yokai monsters that are massive and they have complete dominance over like all types of Haki, and they've ruled the world since like the Void Century, and they're like immortal and they can recover from any injury, and now they're getting involved in this battle. Also, they can kill a snail. I mean, like, yeah, there's Luffy and everybody else there too that they want to take care of, and the Vegapunks and stuff like that. But when you boil it down to like the 5 elders, the 5 demon lords that rule this world, all assembling together to kill a snail. We gotta find that, and they haven't succeeded. Is the thing? They haven't succeeded yet, dude. If I was a member of the Gorosei and I hear York being like, "Hey, elders, you messed up. You need to destroy the snail completely." We don't want to hear this shit from you, York. We are the demon lords that control everything. We know. All right, I'm just telling you. Shut up. All right, you know, I don't think if York survives this, she's probably going to be taken to, like, Marie-Joie in a room, and she's not going to be allowed to leave and chained up and forced to do, like, science. I don't think they're going to make her attend Rubito after this, right? Okay. But another part of the world that we see while all this is going on is we see Gaimon. Gaimon and his new wife, Sarfunkel. From the Island of Rare Animals. We got Gaimon, the man trapped in a treasure chest, and then during the time skip at some point, he meets Sarfunkel, a woman trapped in a barrel. They're the perfect couple, ladies and gentlemen. And they don't even have a Den Den Mushi. So they're not even listening to this. They have no idea what this is. Maybe there's some snails on the island that are just regular Den Den Mushi, but they don't care because they're living in nature and they have each other and they're animals and they're just laughing and having a fabulous day, you know? I wonder how they met. I like to think that, like, you have Gaimon on that one island, and he gets trapped in the treasure chest for 20 years, and then there's another island right next door where that woman, Sarfunkel, also got trapped in a barrel for some reason, and then one day, like, she fell into the ocean and she just drifted to the Island of Rare Animals, and Gaimon is just like, man, I wish I had somebody to talk to, and then Sarfunkel shows up, and then they just fall for each other, and there you go. Gaimon and Sarfunkel are, despite everything else, they are going to have a happy ending by the ending of the story. I don't think Oda's going to do anything to, like, ruin their lives or anything like that. I don't think there's going to be a moment where the ocean level is rising and, like, Gaimon is, like, holding on to Sarfunkel, like, the water, the flood is coming, I don't know what to do, Sarfunkel, please! And Sarfunkel's about to fall in the ocean, like, it's okay, it's alright, thank you for being there for me. No! I don't think it's going to be anything like that. I hope, can we just have Gaimon and Sarfunkel have the happy ending they deserve by the end of the story? They're just living on the Island of Rare Animals. They have no idea what's even going on. They have no idea about Void Centuries and the Straw Hats and Luffy being a Yonko or Yonko in general. They don't know anything about that. They're there with each other, and they got their animals on their little nature preserve in the middle of nowhere in the East Blue, They're fine, okay? They're doing okay. They're having a good time. All right, all right. That's great that they showed Gaimon. Just Gaimon's there, not even listening to the message. They don't even... They're completely ignorant of what's going on, but ignorance is bliss, you know what I mean? There you go. All right. So, undulation occurs, and then Luffy looks up, and he sees a bunch of things falling from the sky, and he's like, what is this, rain? We've seen a lot of different kinds of rain in this story, in the Grand Line. We've seen candy rain, fire rain. This is people rain. These are people falling from the sky. We've seen a giant boat fall from the sky. These just happen to be people. So these are the Cipher Pole agents that were trapped in the prison, that were then freed by Ethan, that were then swallowed by Peter, that were now spit back out, and so they're just spewed all over the place. So the marine vessels that are around the giant ship, they're trying to like grab. It's like a mini game. It's like, make sure to grab all of your comrades. Make sure they don't slam on the deck and break their skulls. It's like, okay. It's like they're picking up all the Cipher Pole agents, right? And on top of that, some of the Seraphim are there as well. We see the Seraphim in their bubbles still, like S-Hawk, just still like boing boing, like landing on the deck of the ship. So that's where they are. So right now, the Seraphim are in control of the Marines. They're landing on, like, the Marine ships. I don't know if any of them land on the Great Eric. I don't think so. I don't see any. But now, we have a problem, because Peter has spit out all of the Cipher Pole and is now using his giant sandworm form to suck the Great Eric back toward the shore. So he's using like the Kirby move, you know, he's just like, you know, sucking in all the air, and then the Great Eric is being like, no, we're being sucked back to shore after we made all this progress. Men, giants of Elbaf, row, row. You know, they're trying to fight the suction, as it were. Luffy's like, don't worry, I got this. He jumps back to shore. He uses a giant fist to punch Peter in the face, like, boom, and it just, you know, it's not going to seriously wound him, but it is going to interrupt him, you know, using the suction power. So he's like, and then boom, Luffy's like, stop that! Stop it! We're trying to leave. And you're not even a yokai. What are you even doing here? We have a giant mythical boar from Chinese mythology. We have a giant cursed bird and a Yuki, oh, not a Yuki-onna, a Yuki-onna, like Saturn becomes a Yuki-onna now. Ushi-oni. And we have like what the horse guy was, okay? And you're just a worm. Get out of here. Stop it. Right? So Luffy smacks him in the face. The giants are there. They're like, you get him. You go, sun god. Oh, we love you. Man, the giants are having a great time here. This is like the greatest wrestler of all time in giant lore, and they're ringside for a match right now. Like, you go, Nika, you go. Yeah, all right. So, last scene of the chapter, really, the Marines are all freaking out, like that giant monster appeared, and then Straw Hat has white hair, and he shows up punching them. I don't even know what's going on. Dreams aren't even this wild. Dude, one of these Marines, like, some of them are gonna survive, right? Like, they're not all gonna die. Some of these Marines are gonna make it back to base, and they're going to have to go through some debriefing stuff, and eventually they're going to be able to go back home, I think. Unless the government just kills them all because they all saw the Gorosei. But I'm picturing just, you know, this one Marine guy in the background who's like, dreams aren't even this wild. Like, a couple days later, he walks back into his house, and his wife and kids are there. It's like, oh, hi, honey, how was the Buster call? It's like, I do not know anything that I thought I know. I'm gonna go in my bedroom now and, like, scream and cry for, like, a couple hours, so don't freak out about that, and then I don't know. I don't even know anymore. Okay. Making pot roast tonight. Ooh, pot roast, okay. He goes in his bedroom, you just hear, ah! Ah! Okay, so last scene of the chapter. We have Topman making a play. Okay, we got Topman on the 10-yard line. He's making a play, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So Topman starts charging toward the shore while Luffy is dealing with Peter. Luffy's in the background, like, slapping this sandworm around, just like, you know, no, you're not letting you do that. Topman's like, okay. And he starts running toward the shore, right? And he jumps off of the shore of Egghead, about ready to slam into the Great Eric, because I guess Peter managed to get it back to shore close enough that Topman could just jump off the shore and hit it. Bonney goes back into her child form, and she's like, you know, it's like, oh, being free is exhausting. I can't maintain that form for very long, so she's not going to be any help here. Sanji's helping her up. And then you have the giants that are all freaking out, like, what? And then at the last minute, you have the Iron Giant emerging from the ocean in this cool spread. He jumps out of the water, he takes his giant iron fist and just boom, punches Topman right in the tusk, breaks off a tusk. And that's some pretty good damage, because even Luffy mentions, like, hey, that guy's really hard to damage. You know, Luffy hit him right on the top of the head, full power, gear 5th, and it didn't do anything. It hurt Luffy, actually. So Iron Giant's able to come out and just, oh! And we have the Iron Giant coming out of the ocean, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my god, with the steel folding arm! Boom! Just like, okay. So last scene of the chapter, Iron Giant punches out Topman and breaks off one of the tusks. And then you have the inside of the Iron Giant, like, I guess him thinking to himself, I guess, because he is sentient. We've already established this. He has his own concept of thought. So he's sitting there and he's just like, remember, okay, so this is him remembering something that Joy Boy told him. So the line I'm going to read here, this is Joy Boy speaking, which is interesting because when we get to this scene in the anime, we'll have, you know, Joy Boy's voice, I guess. Listen up, Emeth. The time is at hand. And then Emeth response, Iron Giant, is like, the time? What time is at hand? And then that's the end of the chapter. We just see the giants freaking out with their eyes popping out of their heads. And we see Luffy being like, so cool, robot! And then that's the end of the chapter. Break next week. All right, before I forget, before we talk about the Iron Giant and the name and everything, I want to talk about the fact that Topman jumped off of the shore of Egghead to slam into the Great Eric. Now, obviously, he was trying to destroy it. However, this gives us a little bit of an idea into the Gorosei's abilities. Because if this attack would have went through the way that Topman intended, like if the Iron Giant didn't pop out at the last minute and stop the attack, what would have happened here? Topman would have destroyed the Great Eric. He would have crashed right into it and obliterated the ship into splinters, and Topman would have fallen in the ocean. There's no way to look at this panel and not assume this is what's going to happen. He would have slammed into the ship, and then he would have sunk into the ocean. The fact he did that without any care is, I think, confirmation, or at least strongly infers, that getting knocked into the water is not going to weaken him. Because, and I guess it is the shore, so it is shallow water, but he's huge, and you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know, man. I feel like knocking the Gorosei into the water and just like, oh, they're devil fruit users, just knock them into the ocean. That's how we deal with them. I don't think it's going to be that simple. And I think this shows that, like, even if he does, and he might still actually, because the Iron Giant comes out and, like, punches him, but he was still over the water when he did that. He was a little bit on shore, a little bit over the water. So Topman might still fall into the water because of this attack. And if that happens, they might be like, oh, he fell into the ocean. All right, we took care of one of them. Or I guess we took care of two of them now. And then Topman just, you know, rises up out of the water like it doesn't even bother him. Like, oh, aren't you a devil fruit user? And he's just like, that what you think? Boom, and then he goes to attack the Iron Giant again, right? So I just wanted to bring that up because that's kind of important. Now, the Iron Giant's name. So Emeth. The best that I could deduce from this, that what people are saying and everything like that, where this probably comes from, is Jewish folklore. Are you familiar with the legend of the Golem? All right. So there was actually a silent film, a German silent film that came out way back in like 1915 that I actually have seen called The Golem. And it was actually parodied once in The Simpsons, and I also learned about it from there. But anyway, the idea of the Golem is it is a creature that is made out of mud or clay or some kind of like rock or some kind of like, you know, earth. And it's shaped in the form of a man, although it can take other forms as well. Typically, it's an anthropomorphic, you know, kind of like 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, eyes, mouth. You know, you're kind of shaping this golem. And the idea is, and there's a few different stories of this. There's the Golem of Prague, which is probably the most famous one. And then it's like, I, you know, will do anything that the creator wishes of me. And sometimes it's like you write an order on a piece of paper and you furl it up and you put it inside of the golem, and then the golem will be like, I will listen to that order. So it's like, protect us at all costs. It's like, I will protect you at all costs, you know? Go grab me an ice cream sandwich. I will go grab you an ice cream sandwich. You know, like, there you go. That's the idea. Now, there's a term that, there's a word that you would sometimes inscribe in Hebrew on the forehead of a golem. And that word is emet or emeth. I can't speak Hebrew, but something similar to that word we're seeing here, okay? And the idea of that word is that's the word that gives it life. And if you erase one of the letters or one of the characters for emet, it turns from, I think, life to death. Like if you like remove one of the letters, and then that's how you kill the golem, right? So I don't think, like, in the most literal sense, like the Iron Giant is like, you know, has something marked on his forehead or something like that, and you can kill him that way. I'm simply saying that's probably where Oda got the name for the golem, right? By that word, that Hebrew word that would be etched on the head of a golem, right? Okay, so that's the origin of that. The idea that the Iron Giant was maybe a golem created not out of mud, but out of iron in the ancient kingdom, so a more technologically advanced, a future golem, as it were. And maybe that golem was originally intended to be Joy Boy's bodyguard during this war. He was supposed to be the golem that was charged to protect Joy Boy. Okay, so there we go. And he was also sentient. And maybe it had something to do with Joy Boy's ability, maybe making the Iron Giant sentient, or Emeth sentient. And he's remembering a conversation that he had with Joy Boy here, like, hey, listen up, Emeth, the time is at hand. And then Emeth is like, the time? What do you mean, the time, Joy Boy? Like, he's remembering something Joy Boy said, okay? I guess there's also voices coming into his head because there's a Den Den Mushi in there broadcasting, so maybe that might do something as well. But I knew that Iron Giant was going to be strong. I knew that Iron Giant was going to be able to bust up the Gorosei. Now, once again, broke off the tusk of Topman, really cool, but Topman can just reform the tusk, so, you know, that's not going to be a permanent, you know, amount of damage, unless the Giant is using some ancient Void Century Haki that we don't know about or something. Yeah, Void Century Haki, the next level of Haki. But no, this was a really good chapter. Wasn't particularly long. I think it was a little longer than the other one in last chapter, and we have a break next week. But yeah, the way that they're setting this up seems to be like, okay, I don't know if they're picturing this like Mars is just out of the fight now, because it really doesn't make any sense for Mars to be knocked away and stay gone for like an hour. Like, there's no way he'd be gone that long. Like, he can fly super fast and he can heal. He should be back in like 5 minutes, honestly, like, if we're doing this logically here, unless they literally shot him into space, in which case that creates other issues. But you can kind of breathe in space in the One Piece world. You can at least breathe on the moon. Maybe he got shot to the moon. I mean, that's a good way to bring Eneru back into the story again, I'm just saying. So Mars might be dealt with for right now. Luffy's dealing with Peter. The Iron Giant's dealing with Topman. You still have Saturn. So what's Saturn up to doing right now? Saturn is, I think Saturn was with Peter the last time we saw him, so Saturn might be popping in like, okay, Iron Giant's dealing with the Topman, and Luffy's dealing with Peter, and then Saturn might attack the ship and start launching acid poison slime at the ship, okay? And you still got Sanji, you still got Franky, you got the Giants, Dory and Bragi to help out, Oimo and Kashi and everything like that. And then up in the Labo phase, you still have Ethan fighting against Zoro and Jinbei and everybody, right? And then Atlas is going to go up there too. So, which is where she might die, who knows? But gotta throw in the Atlas hate at the very end. I don't have a problem with Atlas, she's okay. She's just okay. Alright, anyway, that's the end of the chapter though, and pretty intense one. So yeah, we'll open this up and discuss more about it as we go into it. The Cypher Pole and Seraphim are with the Marines right now. Vegapunk's message, let me know how you feel about that down below, what he was trying to get out there at the very end. Was it a message for Blackbeard, trying to appeal to his better angels, or was it something else altogether that I was missing? What did you feel about the combo attack? Does Franky have Haki? Bonney has Haki. Sanji already had it. And then... yeah, then the scene with Stussy and Kaku, that was pretty heart-wrenching as well. So let me know about all that stuff down below. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Teching 101, signing out. Later, everybody.